Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the special committee of the whole meeting of Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. A couple of quick reminders that no final decisions will be made here today. These will be recommendations that will go to the regular council meeting on December 14th for a final decision. It's a special committee of the whole meeting today, so we are here today to discuss recommendations from the ORV Task Force for routes in the Janetville, Cameron, Omemee, Bobcaygeon, Bethany, and Pontypool areas only. We are not discussing the Lindsay connection today. Council made that decision and proceeded with a pilot project last month. With that in mind, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask for a motion, please, for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Elmsley and Dunn, thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in anything on today's agenda? Seeing none, we're going to move right into deputations. Just a reminder to our deputants, a couple of you have been here before, so you'll have 2.5 minutes. But other than that, most have 5. We have 7 deputations, so we'll just ask you to keep to your 5 minutes if possible, and I will remind you if you don't. Our first deputation is item 4.1, ATV use in the village of Bobcaygeon. Ann Adair. Are you there, Ann?
Yes, I am, sir. Thank you.
Good morning. We can hear you just fine, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for allowing me the opportunity to present to you today. I appreciate the great effort that you have all put into this initiative. My name's Ann Adair, and I've spent my life in Bobcaygeon, first as a cottager and now as a resident. For years, my family and I were avid users of the trails that permit motorized vehicles, including the 5-point system, and I'm certainly not against ORVs. During my career, I spent 20 years in the financial services industry, which included being licensed for property and casualty, giving a clearer understanding of liability, risk, and experience. Since moving here, I became heavily involved in the volunteer community in Bobcaygeon as a member of Impact 32, Environmental Action Bobcaygeon, the Chamber of Commerce, co-chair of the Regional Tourism Parks Canada Bobcaygeon TSW Trailtown Committee, chair of the Bobcaygeon Communities in Bloom team, which includes environmental sustainability and urban forestry and trails. I had Bobcaygeon certified as an Ontario by Bike Town, served on the Boyd Island Management Advisory Team as communications chair, and currently sit on the City of Kawartha Lakes Heritage Committee. I, along with others, have worked diligently to help boost economic development and to help Bobcaygeon thrive. I'm a member and current chair of the Bobcaygeon COVID-19 Relief Fund, and I'm well aware of the toll the pandemic has had on our community and local businesses. Let me be clear, my comments and opinions today are in no way a statement on behalf of any of these committees or organizations. Rather, it is because of my involvement in the community that I felt compelled to come before you today to present the results of the Bobcaygeon ORV survey. When I first became aware of the task force, I spoke with Councillor Seymour Fagan, and we were both very disturbed by the divisiveness that we saw forming over the issue. Had several conversations and focused on how to make things work, possible routes that should be avoided. I then became aware that the provincial changes did not impact the City of Kawartha Lakes. The city already had a bylaw, and quite simply, council did not need to put ORVs on the road. The question, should ORVs be permitted on the road, had been bypassed altogether, which is a concern given the Trails Master Plan and active transportation plans for the city have yet to be completed, and there'd been no public consultation done in Bobcaygeon. We heard from council that the loudest are trying to stop this, but they are the minority. I'd heard very different from people I talked to in Bobcaygeon, including some ORV riders who indicated that if this went ahead, they continued to trailer to the safety of the trails. So in an effort to clarify the picture to ensure that Bobcaygeon's voice was heard, I began working with a small group who worked to create an unbiased and simple survey to capture the voice of Bobcaygeon, and I committed to keeping an open mind. The survey asked if respondents were in favor or not in favor of putting ORVs on Bobcaygeon roads. A copy was sent to Councillor Seymour Fagan on June 30th, and the link went live on August 2nd to catch summer residents too. It was shared widely throughout the Bobcaygeon community. The link was forwarded to local subdivisions, including the large Victoria Place, Port 32, through their memberships, presidents, boards, and residents. And we also requested the link be placed in newsletters and on message boards. The link to the survey was also shared to local groups, including local churches, curling club, and members of the Agricultural Horticulture Society, to share in an ongoing effort to reach as many people as possible. We chose not to share the link on Bobcaygeon's Facebook pages as there was already too much divisiveness and misinformation, and many of the members on those pages were far outside Bobcaygeon, and we wished to focus the effort on how Bobcaygeon felt. The survey was shared by respondents, and one respondent did post on the Bobcaygeon Facebook page, resulting in an uptick in responses and helped to increase our sample size, which in turn decreased the margin of error and increased the confidence level in the survey. Because of commenting drama that ensued, the original poster removed their post. Let me be very clear. The survey was circulated without bias in our instructions and with the expectation the results would be determined by respondents and not some preset outcome. The survey went live on August 2nd. Was scheduled to run for 5 weeks to Wednesday, September 8th, which it did. First response came in on Wednesday, August 4th at 6:26 a.m. The survey closed and the last response registered at 6:26 p.m. on September 8th. These times can be verified through the results submitted. Throughout and at the close of the survey, the results were not in favor of ORVs on Bobcaygeon roads. Please also note that each respondent could only complete the survey once. As it turns out, the latest who were trying to stop this were actually not a minority at all, but rather the majority. The survey clearly shows that 65% of Bobcaygeon respondents are not in favor of ORVs on the streets of Bobcaygeon. The survey produced a higher than normal response amongst the population, roughly 12% of Bobcaygeon's over 18 population. By survey standards, that's a pretty robust sample size, which is indicative of less than a 5% margin of error, meaning we can be confident in the accuracy of the results. And it provided a 1.96 confidence level score, translating to 95% confidence level, meaning we can be confident that the results are not only accurate, but they're representative of the entire population of Bobcaygeon. To wrap up, I initially started out trying to how to figure to put ORVs safely on the roads in Bobcaygeon, but after months of researching and listening to the meetings and the experts' reports, I've come to realize, and I hope that council does too, that putting ORVs on Bobcaygeon roads at this time, pilot or not, is something that should not be pursued. ORV users can continue to access and use the trails as they are now. Nothing would be taken away. Today, I'm asking council to listen to what your Bobcaygeon constituents are asking of you, listen to what the experts are telling you, and please do not put ORVs on the roads of Bobcaygeon. You and many of us out here will continue to find ways to support our local businesses, putting the wants of the minority ahead of the majority, and more importantly, public safety is simply not the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate that. Let me get a motion to receive, and we'll see if there's any questions for you. Councillor Ashmore, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions for the deputant?
I do.
Councillor Seymour Fagan, yeah,
Councillor
go ahead.
Kathleen
Sorry,
Seymour
I should have mentioned at the beginning that Councillor Seymour Fagan is zooming in. Go ahead.
I do have a question. I was just wondering, because I can't remember and I can't access it. Did you have age groups on the survey? Because usually the surveys have demographics.
No, the survey was just a simple survey that said, were you in favor, yes or no? And were you from Bobcaygeon or not Bobcaygeon, but the city of Kawartha Lakes? We were trying to drill down on Bobcaygeon, but wanted to give people the opportunity so we could look at the whole picture as well. But for the sake of this deputation, I drilled down on Bobcaygeon.
Okay, and I was just, because as you know, the Facebook pages are, they're kind of wild and they're all out there. But I think that if we were going to get a full picture, maybe actually putting it on social media, it would have helped instead of specific targets. So that's just my thought. But thank you for the work that you've done, because I know, Anne, you and I talked first about. Now, have you seen the routes that have been proposed? The routes?
Yes, I have, and actually do have concerns about the route. Mainly because there was no chance for the community to have a look at that route. The meeting, I did watch it after, and I was quite concerned. I know everybody needs a chance to not go to every meeting. You weren't there, and from what I could see, the people that were in the meeting didn't have a true handle on the streets.
Yeah, I was there. I was just not in camera. So I was in Ottawa. So I heard everything that went on.
Okay, I didn't hear input, so I just assumed you weren't there. Yeah. And I know that people that were there were struggling with the streets. The roundabout that they referred to as Market Square, with its odd angles and difficult getting through there, going by the daycare, not too far from the funeral home, that type of thing really has me concerned. But what concerned me most was that was the first that I had, and most of the people I know had heard of that route, and I don't think you should go ahead with a route without public consultation on that route. It doesn't seem to connect to.
Do you know that the other most other municipalities didn't even, they just opened the roads. So that's why we put the task force together. So, maybe this is something that we can look at as the Bobcaygeon routes again. You know, it just, again, it has to be some kind of a compromise. It's just, we can't just have one way and not the other way. If we can have a compromise, like we discussed at the very first.
Right, and I'm
know,
all
when
for
we discussed
compromise, but when it comes right down to it, the safety issue for me has become overriding. And when I look, especially at the route that you're now looking at, the residents from the Coeur d'Alene Lakes Retirement Village come along that way to get into town on their scooters. So we've got, you know, people that are 80 and above doing that. You're going by a daycare. It's not too far from the funeral home, which seems kind of inappropriate to me, but safety for me, that area in the summer is craziness. I come through it a few times a day because my mom is over there. You know, there's cars parked on both sides of Front Street there. I'm not sure where ORVs would fit into that picture. People are having their mirrors winged off. It just, I just hope it can be looked at again. And from what I can see, I'm not sure what you're trying to link to there. ORVs are not currently allowed on 36 in Peterborough County, which is Trent Lakes. So I'm not sure where we're putting them and where we're drawing them from with that area.
From north
Thank you,
of
Ann.
8, because it's open north of 8.
Okay, we're not going to debate the issue. We're just going to ask questions of the deputant. We'll debate it when we get to the report. Thank you. Are there any further
Thank you.
questions for the deputant on the deputation? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you, Anne. I very much appreciate you sharing your opinion with us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 4.2 is the ATV use in the village of Bobcaygeon. Mr. Richard Fetty. Richard, there you are. You joined us before, Richard, so I'll just remind you, you have 2.5 minutes, sir, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I look forward to when we can do this in person. The ORV task force recommendations for Bobcaygeon have been a bit of a moving target. So I believe today they're recommending that ATVs be allowed on 36, Main Street, which is already a very busy street, and Front Street. Good luck finding any parking there. Councillor Seymour Fagan surely knows, but some of you may not, that smack dab in the middle of this proposed Bobcaygeon ATV route is a very busy nursery school and daycare center. What an incredibly inappropriate place to recommend more traffic. The ORV task force has changed their rationale for inviting ATVs onto Bobcaygeon residential streets from, I quote, "We simply want to connect ATV trails," to, I quote again, "We want to help business." And as Ann said, Peterborough County does not allow ATVs on their roads. So the proposed route for Bobcaygeon would dead end at the Trent Lakes border. There are no ATV trails to connect in Bobcaygeon. And I can tell you with confidence that not all Bobcaygeon businesses view ATVs on our streets as beneficial. 2 cornerstone businesses have given me their permission to tell you that they think putting ATVs on the local streets would be a very bad idea. Rick Sarek of London Trading Post called the idea really stupid. Those are his words, my sentiments. Unfortunately, I was unable to reach the new president of the Bobcaygeon Chamber of Commerce, but the 2 previous Bobcaygeon Chamber of Commerce presidents, Donna Wood and Kent Leckie, both with businesses in our downtown core, also gave me permission to tell you that they think it would, again, be bad for business to allow ATVs onto our already busy streets. Donna Woods called the ORV task force recommendation for Bobcaygeon ill-conceived and dangerous. Donna is right. Kent Leckie is right. 2/3 of your Bobcaygeon constituents are right. Now it's your turn to get it right. For goodness sakes, vote no to this astonishingly bad proposal for Bobcaygeon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. And again, look forward to when we can do this in person.
Thank you, Mr. Fetty. Agree, be nice to do it in person. I'll get a motion to receive and we'll see if there's any questions for your deputation. Moved by Councillor Seymour Fagan, second by Councillor Elmsley. Are there any questions for Mr. Fetty on his deputation? Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Fetty. Thank you for your deputation, but do you have anything positive you could say about this? Could you maybe accept the fact that it's a growing industry and there are many young families and also seniors that that participate in this type of activity. But do you have anything positive, or what would be your alternative instead of what you're proposing right now, which is basically no?
Thank you for your question. My granny used to say, if you don't have something good about to say about something, don't say anything at all. I wish I could, but no, I don't. I think your health department, your own staff, the police department, and 2/3 of your community have told you what they think. I hope you've got the common sense to listen to them.
Thank you, Mr. Fetty. Any further questions for Mr. Fetty? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive. All in favor?
I do.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Seymour Fagan.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for coming to council and speaking on this. I have a couple questions for you. Thank you for surveying the businesses. And I know one of them is a retail store and the other two are personal services that don't rely on walk-in. Did you touch on any of the hotels? Or grocery stores or gas stations?
I didn't survey anybody. I only spoke with people that I knew well enough who raised the topic to me.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We have a motion to receive. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you, Mr. Fetty. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4.3 is another deputation regarding the ORV Task Force recommendation on rural roads and other municipal streets. Mr. William Steffler. Hello, Mr. Steffler. You have joined us before, but not only on Lindsay route, so you do have the full 5 minutes. So go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. The October 19th decision by a majority vote of 5-4 represents a colossal failure on multiple levels and should not be repeated. Among those failures was a failure to make fact-based decisions. And here are some facts. The medical officer of health stated, restricting ORVs to trail use only would be the preferred best practice from a public health point. She made these statements based on the accident and hospitalization facts for this area. Now, stats can be very dry compared to the hard, cold facts of life. So here's a sample of these facts, and safety has been mentioned by earlier deputants. A sample of these facts. Gregory Lane, Halliburton, June 2021 ORV accident. As a result of the collision, 2 passengers were transported to local hospital. 1 person was later airlifted to Orange to a Toronto area trauma center with serious injuries. 10 to 15 feet from where that accident occurred, there's a wreath. The driver of that ORV is dead. Midland OPP, June 2021. Off-road vehicle fatalities reached 14-year high in 2020, local OPP says. Interim OPP Commander Joseph Evans made the following statements regarding Bill 107 and ORV road use. This comes to us as MTO has reduced the amount of enforcement on the Off-Road Vehicle Act. Allowing them to be on highways, it just makes no sense. We already have enough fatalities with the off-road vehicles when they're off-road. Now to put them on the road, that's a disservice to our communities. July 28th, 2021, ATV crash in Skewgog, leaves man seriously hurt. This occurred at Byers Road and Russell Road. The man had to be airlifted to the Toronto Trauma Center. Halliburton OPP, September 2021. A 45-year-old man was killed in an off-road single vehicle collision in Minden Hills over the weekend on Road 121. The death prompted police to remind the public to exercise caution to reduce the rising number of ORV incidents. October 30th, 2021, Peterborough area woman dies after ATV crash. She was a member of the local ATV club CATFA. Midland, Halliburton, Skewgog, and Peterborough. And there are others, all of these on road. The hard, cold facts of life are that if you put ORVs on roads, you are putting people in mortal danger. You put ORVs on roads and people get hurt and people die. You put more ORVs on roads and more people will die. It's really that simple. So if you vote to put ORVs on roads, you better be prepared to wake up to deadly headlines knowing it didn't have to be that way. It was your choice. The hard, cold facts of life clearly tell you that putting ORVs on roads anywhere is beyond irresponsible because it is so unnecessary. It is a transgression of your duty of care. Add to that the warning given by ORV manufacturers, not designed for road use. The ORV accident fatality list does go on, but there's another fatality list to reference as well. June 2021, BC coroner confirmed 569 died as a direct result of the heat wave. Many more had to seek medical help, and likely some of those died later on. You put ORVs on roads, people die. You pump out greenhouse gases, people die. October 2019 NASA report of the CO2 emissions that occurred over the last 300 years, half have occurred since 1980. Our generation are real assholes when it comes to the environment and climate change. Our generation is great at drawing up plans like the Healthy Environment Plan, but no follow through. And before I get any bull that it's not us, CO2 from burning fossil fuels has a unique fingerprint. We are guilty as charged. If you vote for the task force proposals, the only possible conclusion is that you don't have a problem with the body count. Catering to a recreational special interest group is apparently more important than people's lives and leaves our kids and grandkids to clean up our mess. You think that's a little harsh? Well, there's no use sugarcoating the hard, cold facts. Now, from the second we enter this world, we are at risk. We depend upon those around us to minimize that risk to avoid unnecessary tragedies, to have a duty of care, to heed the advice of experts. You have the medical officers of health, the manufacturers, the Midland Area OPP, the Halliburton OPP, all in their own words, advising against ORV road use. Your duty of care is quite clear. Vote against all the task force proposals, present and past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steffler. We'll get a motion to receive your deputation, Councillor Dunn and Vale. Any questions for Mr. Steffler's regarding his deputation? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Steffler. Appreciate you sharing your concerns with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move down to item 4.4, which is another deputation on the proposed ATV routes. Heather Stobel. Are you there, Heather?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we can hear you. We can see you just fine. Again, a reminder, you've spoken to us before, so 2.5 minutes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Council, there has been no risk or safety assessment done on any of these routes, and no notice, no maps, no public meeting, no cost review. Routes include arterial roads traveling 80 to 100 kilometers an hour, and they run adjacent to settlement areas. ATV operators will drive through these residential areas where children are playing, riding bikes, and people are pushing strollers. There are no sidewalks. The bylaws have not changed in Northumberland or Peterborough County or Durham Region. They all restrict ATV use. ATV hospital visits and stays are almost entirely due to recreational use, not farmers, not trails in other municipalities, or racetracks on private property. Our OPP reported that in this municipality, 47% of the collisions to date are traffic related. Council was told by the MOH, based on information gathered by ATV experts, that on-road collisions will outnumber off-road collisions if ATVs are allowed on more roads. Last year marked the highest number of off-road vehicle fatalities in the past 14 years in Ontario. In the last few weeks, there have been ATV-related deaths on the roads in Peterborough County, Bancroft, and Halliburton. Off-road vehicles, including ATVs, carry a sticker that says off-road use only for a reason. It's the result of deaths, injuries, and lawsuits. How does the city defend itself after being told that you need to do a safety and risk assessment by the city's insurer and of learning of increased rates of ATV incidents in Kawartha Lakes, and then you don't do it? This was supposed to be about a safe and legal way to access trails. How does it make things safer if there's no risk or safety assessment? No criteria for a pilot, no enforcement, no public education or awareness, and more off-road vehicles on roads. The residents in Kawartha Lakes deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate that. We'll just get a motion to receive, and we'll see if there's any. Councillor Richardson, second by Councillor Yeo. Any questions for Ms. Stobel? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll move down to our next deputation, which is item 4.5, which is ATV use in the village of Bobcaygeon. Peter Petrozoniak, there you are. You got 5 minutes, sir. Please go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, thanks for letting me speak to you. And I will be speaking not just about Bobcaygeon, but also all the other ATV road use. And that includes Cameron, Janetville, Omemee, Pontypool, and rural roads. Now, you've already approved a route through Lindsay as a pilot project, and I say you do the measurements and set the criteria to decide whether that's a success or failure before approving anything else. It makes no sense to approve more routes when we and others, especially as we've heard already, the medical officer of health, who has the ultimate credibility about the safety of ATVs on roads, we've told you specifically that it's not safe to allow ATVs on roads. So don't approve any more routes. The elephant in the room, as Bill Steffler has already mentioned, and it's not been addressed by council that I've heard when dealing with ATVs, is the existential concern of our day. That is, what are we doing to mitigate the devastating effects of climate change? And how do you evaluate the effect of expanding ATV use, which means more fossil fuel use, on our natural environment and our climate? We've just seen the deliberations of the COP26 climate change conference, which told us that climate change is an emergency, and each of us, no matter how insignificant we may seem, must do everything we can to reduce fossil fuel use so that everyone, every country, every province, every municipality must do our utmost in this regard. And in the present context of ATVs, we must not increase the use of gas-powered ATVs, but actually we must decrease their use. Not only must we do this because it is the right thing to do, we must do this to be aligned with the provincial policy statement of 2020, which you're all aware of, and with the City of Kawartha Lake's own vision from the 2020-2023 strategic plan, which says, and you know this, to have thriving and growing communities within a healthy and natural environment is the vision, and the mission to deliver the highest standard of municipal services while creating a healthy and sustainable future for Kawartha Lake's residents and businesses. So the City of Kawartha Lake has set out 4 strategic priority areas, and the first is a healthy environment, has already been mentioned. How did the city propose to monitor these indicators? One of them is to, and I quote, implement the healthy environment plan. And another is, quote, and I quote, develop and execute a green city charter, our corporate commitment to leadership and environmentally friendly business practices. So how is this to happen? And these are your words, not mine. This is city words, although I agree with them. In quote, reduce our corporate carbon footprint and monitor greenhouse gas emissions. You can't do this by expanding ATV use. Municipal governments are also directed to plan their land use by the provincial policy statement. The vision in this statement specifically states the following, and I quote again, strong, livable, and healthy communities promote and enhance human health and social well-being, are economically and environmentally sound, and are resilient to climate change. And then it says further, and I quote again, it is equally important to protect the overall health and safety of the population, including preparing for the impacts of a changing climate. The provincial policy statement directs development away from areas of human-made hazards, and this is still in the quotation, and I continue in the quotation, this preventative approach supports provincial and municipal financial well-being over the long term, protects public health and safety, and minimizes cost and risk and social disruption. So how does the policy suggest building strong, healthy communities? And again, I quote, by promoting strong, livable, healthy, and resilient communities, protecting the environment and public health and safety. All of this has been mentioned so many times. What does the policy say about settlement areas? That, and I quote, land use patterns within settlement areas shall minimize negative impacts to air quality and climate change and promote energy efficiency. And I quote again, prepare for the impacts of a changing climate and I quote, support active transportation. And most importantly, section 1.5 of the policy statement says the following, and quote again, healthy active communities should be promoted by planning public streets, spaces and facilities to be safe, meet the needs of pedestrians, foster social interactions, and facilitate active transportation. So if these are the guiding principles set out by the province in the provincial policy plan and by the city in a strategic plan, then council must live by them and make decisions with those considerations in mind. In no part of the provincial policy statement or strategic plan did I find any mention of let's have more gas-powered vehicles or let's have more ATVs, but I found lots of reference to aspiring for a healthy community, a safe community, and asking for a negative impact and less fossil fuel. I sincerely hope you consider these guiding principles in your deliberations and how your decisions might impact your strategic plan and the province's policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Get a motion to receive, and we'll see if we have any questions. Councillor Richardson and Elmsley, are there any questions for Mr. Petrozoniak? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you, sir, for sharing your concerns with us. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll move down to item 4.6, which is a deputation by Stephen Slack regarding ATV use in the village of Bobcaygeon. Mr. Slack, welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Stephen Slack and I live in Bobcaygeon. My objective in speaking to you today is to provide my view as a Bobcaygeon resident why allowing ATVs in Bobcaygeon roads is not in the best interest of the residents. Let me start by saying, in my view, misinformation has played a huge part in pitting one group against the other, and let it be clear, I have absolutely no issue whatsoever with ATVs or off-road activities they participate in. But I do believe that it's not responsible to allow them on more roads. Your task force has heard input from a myriad of topic experts on the following issues associated with allowing ATVs into urban areas. They include safety issues, too many to mention, environmental impacts, noise, emissions. These facts conflict with the City of Kawartha Lakes, the Healthy Environment Plan adopted in early 19. There's no point going into detail on these now. You can review them in your previous minutes. As a holder of a Master's Certificate in Project Management, I'm aware of the complexity of such an undertaking by the ORV Task Force, and I'm also aware of the temptations when under pressure to shorten processes, phases, and the high risk of failure for not adhering to established project management disciplines. A successful project requires careful thought and adherence to professional standards. I also know it's a special knowledge that's not always available in task forces. One of the global standards that I'm certified in is the Project Management Institute. Let me read you the definition of an initiation phase of a project, the most basic starting point of any successful project. So project initiation, this is the start of a project, and the goal of this phase is to define the project at a broad level. This phase usually begins with a business case. This is when you'll research whether the project is feasible and if it should be undertaken. If feasibility testing needs to be done, this is the stage of the project in which that will be completed. Important stakeholders will do their due diligence to help decide if a project is a go. And if it's given the green light, you will need to create a project charter or a project initiation document that outlines the purpose and the requirements of the project. It should include business needs, stakeholders, and a business case. So that brings me to Bobcaygeon. What makes Bobcaygeon so unique that it also requires a pilot project? Is there a reason why it would provide a different outcome of results than the Lindsay pilot? Would a failure or positive outcome change the council's mind on other towns' implementations? So ATVs in Bobcaygeon, there is no urgency, emergency, or pervasive issue that required immediate action on this topic. No such emergency exists now either. There are no lives at risk or potential issues that we don't even know about yet if we choose not to follow it or postpone until proper planning is complete. What's the hurry? Why is the need for ATVs on the streets of Bobcaygeon suddenly an issue? There is no evidence that users of trails are requesting this, and there are no trails that lead to Bobcaygeon. If it's a financial benefit that's driving the factor for this urgency, then disclosure of the business cases, revenue versus cost analysis, risk analysis reports could potentially help explain to 2/3 of the population surveyed in Bobcaygeon that do not want this, why it's even being proposed. If this is truly urgent, then if there's not truly urgent, then there's time for this work by those that suggest there's a financial benefit. It's with a sense of relief that without the urgency, city can take time with a more holistic approach to this issue and focus its attention on building the active transportation plan for the city. This, along with the Trails Master Plan, will help define the overarching strategy and a very structured program-based approach. The city can properly engage with the stakeholders and complete the intensive planning this would take. If and when the need for ATVs on Bobcaygeon roads is something that the citizens of Bobcaygeon request, then it would be the material and the facts available to be able to plug into active transportation plan. Just closing comments. ORVs and ATVs are not the same vehicles. What is an ORV? I haven't seen it defined anywhere. Why is the task force actually called an ORV task force? Is the intent to put full-size ORVs on the roads throughout the Kawartha Lakes? ORVs can literally be of any size, like a Sherman tank literally is an ORV. If this is potentially a pilot project, I've seen no evidence of a structured evaluation process, what measurements and criteria are being used, and then how can we call it a pilot? Definitions of all aspects of the components of active transportation and other activities, ORVs, exactly what is it, ATV, what is it exactly as it defined today? Bottom line is, without all of this, vote no to Bobcaygeon. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mr. Slack. Appreciate that. We'll get, again, a motion to receive. Councillor Elmsley and Dunn. Any questions for Mr. Slack and his deputation? Councillor Seymour Fagan, go ahead.
I do, Andy. Yes, thank you, Mr. Slack, for your deputation. I just want to clarify something that you said. You said 2/3 of the respondents of your survey were against it. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's from the information that I have from Ann. It may not be exactly 2/3, but around that number.
Okay, thank you. Because Richard Fetty said 2/3 of the residents. So I just wanted to clarify, it's 2/3 of the people who were surveyed. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And just for clarification, Mr. Slack, the proposals today for the expanded access on roads is only for ATVs. So that's what's before council right now. Nothing is talking about side-by-side vehicles at this time for these areas. Any further questions for Mr. Slack? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our last but not least, our 7th deputation regarding ATV use on roads is from a Mr. Denis Grignon.
Hey, thanks for pronouncing my name properly. That doesn't, I don't take that for granted.
I practiced all
Everyone
morning.
can
I
hear me,
practiced
Joe?
all morning. Thank you. So you go ahead, sir. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for making the time for me. I am also fully vaccinated, so everybody out there, you're all safe. I also want to thank you for your service. I recognize that public office is not always glamorous, and I'm sure it's often stressful. Now, before I discuss why I'm hoping you will not approve any routes or any more routes in towns and villages, I want to give you some background on where I'm coming from, because I believe this will help shape my arguments. I grew up in a very working class family. I spent a few years on my apprenticeship in my brother's auto body shop. I've owned dirt bikes. I've owned street bikes. I moved here to live and work on my wife's family farm about 24 years ago. We now live on about 50 acres east of Lindsay. My neighbors, whom I adore, they're all farmers, including the one who farms and works our land. Now, I make this point to dispel some of the stereotypes attached to those who oppose this kind of proposal. We're not erudite snobs who sit around parlors sipping white wine, waxing poetic about Tolstoy. And yes, I did Google Tolstoy. That's as inaccurate and as unfair as suggesting ATV enthusiasts are all backwoods yahoos. I know that both camps have good people. But that's not what's at issue here. This is about greater good and due process, which I believe is sorely lacking, and I hope you will practice in this next set of proposals. Now, even though I don't live on these proposed routes, they do affect me directly because I also believe it's important to have a vested interest in my community as a whole, not just my immediate area. It's why I live with potholes on my road, because I know that there's another road somewhere in Kawartha Lakes that's more traveled with more people, and they may be in need of repairing their road more. Duty to the community's greater good means meeting the genuine needs of marginalized, oppressed groups, people who require our help to get through their day to live. It's why we remove curbs on sidewalks so that people in wheelchairs can access them. ATV riders, they don't check these boxes. They may be nice people, they may be good people, but they're not oppressed. They're enthusiasts. They don't even need these routes to commute to work. They want them for their recreation. You know, when I started my career in journalism, a mentor told me, as a journalist, you can never be unbiased. You're a person, you're a human being, but you can always be fair. It's one of the reasons why I avoid the vitriolic vacuum of social media on this topic. So what I do is I do my best to step back, and I'm prepared to have my mind changed if there are sound, cogent arguments. It's happened to me on many, many occasions, but not here. On your initial surveys, you included more than a few respondents who aren't even residents here. Now, this is something both camps need to hear. If you don't live here, you have no skin in this game. So you really have no right to weigh in because it provides a false representation of this greater good. A true task force would have included members who were pro, some con, maybe even some of them on the fence, and debated and discussed the issue for the following questions. Should there be an ATV route through Lindsay and other communities? Well, you had already decided that yes, there should be. So when I hear an explanation of, well, we're only interested in members who want solutions, it's really about your predetermined solution. This kind of smacks of foisting a Ferris wheel on Kent Street without any real debate, and then asking the public, hey, what color would you like us to paint it? One of the loudest arguments is how local businesses will benefit. Okay, so show me the data, convince me. You haven't even so much as provided a survey of businesses along these routes, or local BIAs or chambers of commerce, let alone a proper economic study. What I have heard from many people is, well, let's just try it and find out. You know, if you want to build a second floor to your house, you get an expert opinion to determine if you know it'll actually work. You don't build it and then say, here's hoping. When our medical officer of health was asked to weigh in, her findings were dismissed. She was essentially told to mind her own business. This is her business. Speaking on public safety, it's what we pay her for. And yes, it certainly would have been better to hear more voices who were opposed, but they were also being asked to get interested in something that didn't even exist and they didn't ask for. When everyone is a little bit distracted right now, it's all reminiscent of that negative billing scandal that cable TV providers tried to sneak past their subscribers years ago. So I'm asking you to please vote no on these proposals. And I want to leave you with this. We have all been so preoccupied with this pandemic, and that includes the media. But once this all subsides, this pandemic, and it will, newspapers and TV stations beyond Kawartha Lakes, they're going to be looking for stories that explore due process and greater good. And I encourage you all to be prepared to answer their questions and recognize how your answers reflect on the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We'll get a motion to receive. We'll see if there's any questions. Councillor Vale and Yo, any questions for Mr. Grignon on his deputation? Seeing
I do.
Councillor
Kathleen.
Seymour Fagan, go ahead.
I do. Yes, thank you for your deputation. Were you aware that we were looking for members for the ATV task force and we went out twice?
I'm going on the information of the initial task force, and I know of members who tried to get in and they were opposed and they weren't. So it was pretty clear that every member on that task force, that initial task force, was pro ATV, was pro a route.
Do you know? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And also, were you aware that we went out a second time and we actually approached people who were in opposition to it to come onto the task force and they did not want to come on? Were you aware of that?
I was aware that there were a number of members who were not in favor of ATVs and they were turned down. So
no,
you essentially but you did have a task force that was, can you confirm that everybody on your task force was pro ATV routes?
No, I cannot confirm that. No, I cannot confirm that. What I'm asking, were you aware that we went out a second time looking for people to be on the task force. So just in case people thought it was biased in one way or another, were you aware of that? And were you aware that we went out to the people who were in opposition and asked them to become on the task force and they chose not to? Were you aware of that?
Okay, well, you're making me aware of it now, but I'm saying
Okay.
that the initial task force was all people who were pro ATV routes.
That was your opinion. So we went out a second time because people thought that. So
Thank you.
that is why we brought other people on.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any?
Just letting you know that.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Grignon regarding his deputation? Seeing none, we have a motion to receive. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you sharing your concerns with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 5.1 is correspondence regarding ATV use in the village of Bobcaygeon from Peter Vanden Tillert. Can I get a motion to receive the correspondence, please? Councillor Yohan Dunn. Any questions on that correspondence? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. 5.2 is correspondence regarding ATV use in Kawartha Lakes from Betty Winholtz. Can I get a motion to receive that correspondence, please? Councillor, our Deputy Mayor O'Reilly and Councillor Richardson. Any questions on that correspondence? Motion to receive. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. We don't have any presentations. We're going to move right into our report. Our report on the Off-Road Vehicle Task Force recommendations. So we're going to go through these one at a time. Let's get a motion first that report PW 2021-007 Off-Road Vehicle Task Force recommendations be received, and then we'll deal with each individual. Councillor Dunn, thank you. Second by Councillor Elmsley. Any questions on receiving the report? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. And then let's go to, so what we're going to do is we're going to deal with each route individually, have a discussion. I'm going to ask Councillor Dunn as the chair of the task force to give us an overview, some of the rationale on why this route. We're going to pull up a map of the route so everybody knows what we're looking at. The first one is Appendix A, the Pontypool, Bethany area. Can we pull that map up? Okay, so that's the proposed route. Is there one route or two routes? There's actually two, but that's the first one. So do you want to give us a quick overview, Councillor Dunn, on the rationale on how the task force came to this this proposal and this route? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe before I start, if with your permission, I'll answer some of the issues that were brought up not only during the presentations today, but at prior times. And then I won't have to do it for each individual route. On the safety issue, ORVs, ATVs have been running on the roads since they were three-wheelers, with permission of the provincial government. They dedicated at that time, they said farmers can run on the roads, and they were allowed. And then finally the provincial government came to the conclusion that really three-wheelers are dangerous, because if you put down your foot to stabilize yourself, you'll run over your foot. And they banned them. But they have been permitted for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years through all levels of government. So all the health and safety workers in MTO, be it under a Liberal government, under an NDP government, or under a Conservative government, have all deemed at that time that certain groups of people are permitted to ride on roads. And they put in regulations and stipulations. Back in the farmers' days, they had to have slow-moving vehicle signs on the back to warn overtaking traffic that they were moving slow. All those regulations have been put in effect by this task force. Speeds are regulated. Helmets are regulated. So the health and safety issue, we have 18 years of success in Fenelon Falls, for example, where they've been running city streets or town village streets for 18 years. And yes, there are people that aren't happy. But no, they aren't running up on sidewalks and striking children playing, and they're not running down pedestrians. So a lot of those health and safety issues that have been raised have not been, they're not accurate. History has shown that those particular complaints aren't accurate, regardless of how many times you say them or whether or not it's said by the medical officer's health or by the OPP. Both police forces have been adamant about staying out of the argument. What we got from the OPP when we started was the number of fatalities, no fatalities in the last 5 years. That was their response to our survey. Not take them off the roads. They stayed out of the argument. Lindsay Police Service, or Kawartha Lakes Police Service did the same thing. They stayed out of the argument. They said, if in fact they're approved, we will initiate proper enforcement. So I honestly believe, and so do the members of my task force, that health and safety is not the issue that people are trying to raise. Now, this same argument will apply to every single route that's on the proposed list. So the first route is down in the Pontypool area. We have, and actually, because Councillor Richardson understands the route better than I do, because it was a task force recommendation, I would ask her to explain the Pontypool route.
Thank you, and through you. I'll give it a little bit of background when it comes to Pontypool. So when I first got elected, I recognized that there were some issues, but I also was looking for some solutions. So I actually myself reached out to the Kawartha ATV Association. I had no idea who they were, but I was looking for some stewardship down my way. Since then, MTO has made an announcement that the trail along Highway 35 is no longer to be used as a trail. Down in my neck of the woods, this is a real big hustle bustle of ATVs and off-road vehicles. They use it as a trail. The trail crossing into Pontypool is actually at the south driveway of my home. They cross right across from my house. Have I had any instances since I've lived there in 20 years? No. But what I have heard from my communities, and I walk around my communities all the time, my residents will tell you they see me in the communities. And there's been a huge influx of new and our older residents have actually taken on this off-road vehicle ATV lifestyle. They want to get out into their neighborhoods and enjoy the city of Kawartha Lakes. So when we looked at the route in Pontypool, I recognized where a bulk of some of the ATVers were coming from, and it was coming from the subdivision area, because that is our settlement area. We, in past, have had a lot of people using the Pontypool Road, and to me, the Pontypool Road is a more used road for traffic, tend to have a little quicker flow of traffic flow on that. So my recommendation was, okay, so can we look at using telecom as a way to get to Porter Road? And I recognize Porter Road is a busy arterial road, but it's a wide road. There's very good visibility on this road as well. I also thought that when we're going this route, the straightest way to get to the route is between A and B. So instead of, jig-jagging through multiple smaller side roads, I thought the best recommendation at this time for a trial project would be to create a connection from Telecom to Porter right to Lifford Road, which has the actual trailhead onto the VRT. And that is the bulk of where my residents are speaking of, is you want access to the VRT so they can access the trails. Now, I know the conversations come up numerous times, well, what about the Ganaraska Forest? Well, for me right now, I believe that we need to take small bites and go at this in a slow and cautious way, and instead of opening up more. I know when you look at the statistics for the Ganaraska Forest, the bulk of the users down there are actually coming from the GTA. So right now, a lot of my local people are looking to have connections going north. And I think too, when we're looking at our communities and putting these connections out there, we have to recognize that we're just trying to have all our communities have access to one of our greatest assets, which is the Victoria Rail Trail. So for me right now, the proposal on this was based on the easiest way to get to the trailhead without zigzagging through other roads, based on the width of these roads for visibility. So basically what you see up there is my proposal right now.
Thank you, Councillor. So can I get you to move the motion then that the pilot project to route for the Pontypool area, ATVs, Telecom Road from John Street to Porter Road from Telecom Road to the VRTC be approved to start in May of 2022, and that recommendation be forwarded to the next regular council meeting in December? Will you move that? Moved by Councillor Richardson, second, Councillor Dunn. Thank you. So you've heard the rationale, you've heard some of the comments. Anybody have any questions or comments on that proposed route? Okay, call the question then. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, let's go down to the second route in the Omemee area. If we can pull that map up, please. That's it. Thank you. This one's a little bit more involved, but again, I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Dunn. Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we ran our original survey, one of the greatest number of responses came from the Omemee area. Basically, they wanted in. So we sat down and we tried to come up with a route that could get our Omemee riders from Omemee over to the trail so that they could participate. We recognize that Highway 7 with the current regulations from the provincial government now is off the table. So what we came up with as a solution is Sturgeon Road up to south up to Highway 7. That's Sturgeon Road is there's a little piece that's south of the of Highway 7. So we want to get to the Highway 7, but basically we want to go up Sturgeon Road to Beaver Road. We would turn left onto Beaver Road and go over to Heights Road. Heights Road from Beaver Road to Mount Orb, and then from Mount Orb you can access the trail. The Mount Orb Road forms a link for very many of the communities. The question was raised when we were having our discussion about people being encouraged to come down Highway 7 and Highway 35. So we moved it in. We moved it in 100 meters so that we sent out a very clear signal that Highway 35 and Highway 7 were not to be used as access roads, but Mount Orb Road was a key. I just lost my screen. Hang on. There we go. Was a key link. Then during the conversations, other members of the task force brought up Crosswind Road. Crosswind Road's a short road, and you can go directly from Crosswind. You can go directly from Crosswind Road over to the trail. Another part that was put on was the Hogsback Road, which is, for all intents and purposes, an unopened road allowance. It's there. It's a challenge to use, but it is there. I remember as a young police officer in 1968, we used to drive our cruisers across there, but I don't think anybody does that anymore. Over to Ski Hill Road. So, and Ski Hill Road would cap it. So the recommendation is Sturgeon Road south to Highway 7, Sturgeon Road north from Highway 7 to Beaver Road, Beaver Road from Sturgeon Road north to Heights Road, Heights Road from Beaver Road to Mount Orb Road, Mount Orb from 100 meters east of Highway 7 to 100 meters east of Highway 35 to 100 meters west of Highway 7, the entire Crosswind Road, and the Hogsback Road from Mount Orb Road to Ski Hill Road. If anybody's ever been up the Hogsback Road, it's really quite attractive. It's a destination all by itself, and it's something that I'm sure that people could enjoy. Before I make the motion, I'm going to ask Councillor Ashmore if he wants to add anything to it.
Thank you. Yeah, what this does is it brings it outside of the village and doesn't cause any undue congestion inside the village of Omemee by going north and then going west and then going south again. As far as crossing the highways, I know that Mennonite traffic, they cross right at that corner of Green Tractors and 7, and also in Rayboro, so they make it past. They judge the traffic, and I'm sure the ATV drivers will judge it, and they'll have a little bit more speed, so they should be able to get across quite safely. I have not had one person say that they didn't want this. Quite a few, as you see in the comments here, are positive about it. It's a positive thing for the village. Sometimes we get dirt bikes on the Trans-Canada Trail on the east side of the village, but that happens now and again, but we have no control over that trail, unfortunately. But I think this route will be a positive boost for the village of Omemee, and they need it, and they want it, and I've had nothing but positive vibes from the people down there, so I hope you support it.
I'll make the motion that council recommends to, that the Committee of the Whole recommends to council that the Omemee area proposed route be approved at the next council meeting for implementation in May.
As a pilot project to
As a
commence in
pilot
May of 2022,
Yep.
be forwarded to the next regular council meeting in December.
Thank you.
Beauty. Moved by Councillor Dunn, second by Councillor Ashmore. Any comments, questions? Councillor O'Reilly?
Thank you much to the mover and the seconder. Any question, was there any concerns? I know Mount Horeb Road, it's a busy road and there's a lot, and a lot of speed on it as well. I mean, same as any other county road. I just wondered, was there any concerns about the traffic or the speed on the Mount Horeb Road?
None that were raised at the task force, and we were very careful at the task force to put the proposed recommendations out, or to advertise that these were going to be the proposed recommendations. Then we brought it back at the following meeting a month later. Nobody attended it on Zoom. Nobody made an application for a deputation to use that route. Yes, it's a busy road. I can't argue that a bit. It's certainly wide enough, in my opinion, to accommodate ATVs. We had two on our committee. We have 3 ATVers, all members of CATRA, as far as I know. It was discussed with them. One of our recent members is was in the health and safety industry for quite some time prior to that. One of the ATV members is actually in the health and safety industry. None of them raised any concerns about the speed on the road. It's a windy, twisty road, so yes, they do drive fast. They certainly drive their 80 in a lot of occasions, but the nature of the road also slows them down. So, in my opinion, it's a safe road for an ATV to drive at 40 kilometers an hour.
Thank you. Councillor Vail, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Has there been any concern about them traveling within the village of Omemee? And I know that that's not on the proposed route. I'm just looking at the obvious, right? That if I lived in the village of Omemee and I had an ATV and I lived out in the subdivision on the west end, realistically, am I trailering my ATV, 2 or 3 blocks to the route?
I certainly understand that. I think your apprehension is probably correct. But we got no feedback. And as I said, of the respondents to the original survey, the greatest support came from Omemee. It was, so there have been no concerns raised. Omemee on the south side of the road is certainly a lazy little town. But nobody's raised any concerns by that. We've had no deputations. Actually, I'm going to say negative or positive from Omemee, although they're well aware of what our plans are. So, yeah, I think somebody's going to sneak over to Sturgeon Road South. I think that's possible. And if they get caught doing it, they'll have to bear the ramifications of sneaking over. It hasn't been an issue raised by the people in Omemee.
Thank you. Any other questions on this route? So I just want to confirm, where's the actual rail trail? Is that, I see it kind of cutting across, it's very faint, but is it cutting sort of Crosswind Road, sort of right through the middle and then comes right down
Now,
west of Hogsback, right through Mount Horeb, and then sort of curves around just east of Pigeon Creek Road? Is that the rail trail
yeah,
that everything's linking to? Is that it?
that's right. Those two little bottom, what looks like water, not the creek, but you see two blue spots? That's right in the middle of that, you'll see the trail.
Okay, so it loops, okay, so that's it from the north-south and then
Yeah.
then sort of curving around there. Okay, okay. All right, any other questions regarding this route in the Omemee area? Call the question then, all in favor? And that's passed. I didn't get Kathleen back up there.
There you go. Yep. My Wi-Fi cut out.
Okay, that's all right. I just
Can you
want to
hear me?
confirm.
Yeah,
Are you in
okay.
favor of that Omemee route?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm in favor. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm trying
Motion's
to get it
passed.
back up.
Okay, let's go down to the next map if we could in the Cameron area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most of our activity, as far as we could determine, came from the area that's south of, east of Highway 35. So that was the first part that we tried to address. And we got a lot of comments from Southview Estates. They wanted to leave Southview Estates, scoot up Long Beach Road up to Ranches Road and hook into the trail on Ranches Road. So that was the first bit of rationale. The Long Beach Road, the entire road was discussed. Concerns were raised, actually by myself, because it wasn't in the original recommendations about Long Beach, because Long Beach Road, once you get down along the lake, is a narrow road. It's a skinny road. It's a 40-kilometer road. And the houses are quite often built fairly close to the road, and then right on the other side you've got the river. By the task force members, they convinced me that really the only people that would access the trail from that portion would be people that are living in Long Beach. So based on that scenario, that was I agreed with that, and I went along with it. Then our next question was to get people that are on the west side of the road involved. The Cameron Road runs from Cameron right up to County Road 8. It's a paved road. It's got good shoulders. And we can bring people right down, and we did have some alternative routes that we did discuss, which I'll touch on very briefly. We were going to bring them across at, Poles Corners, thank you. We're going to bring them across on the Poles Road, because that's actually a route that's being currently used. They bring them across there, but it's not an intersection. And that was raised by staff. What used to be an intersection is no longer an intersection. What they do is they come across and they go up the hill onto Ranches Road, and then they go south on Ranches Road and hook into the trail. So on the recommendations of staff and on the issues that were raised by staff, we removed that from our recommendations. But Cameron Road to, from County Road 8 or City Road 8 to Highway 35 is a straight shot, brings you into Cameron, left-hand turn, right-hand turn, and you're on the Long Beach Road again on your way to the trail. So that's the recommendation. It's a trial. It's a trial period. Are there other routes that can get the people west of 35 over to the trail? Yes, there are. But it's a trial period, and the task force felt that this was the best of the available options. And I'll move that as a motion.
So you'll move that in the Cameron area, pilot project be approved, Ranchers Road from CR 121 to Long Beach Road from Highway 35 to City Road 121, Cameron Road from Highway 35 to City Road 8 to commence in May of 2022, and that recommendation be forwarded to the next regular council meeting in December.
I would move that.
Moved by Councillor Dunn, second. Councillor Richardson. Any questions, comments? Councillor Elmsley, go ahead.
Thank you. I have real concerns about Long Beach Road down at the waterfront. And I don't have a good suggestion on what to do, but we know we already have many complaints from that area about cars and speeding and things like that. I also am not really liking the Cameron Road route. And it is a very long stretch, and it's not that great a road, to tell you the truth. And I would prefer that be taken out completely. The Ranchers Road I have no problem with, and getting over to the trail. And the Long Beach, what's designated there as 34. You know, I don't see that as a big issue. But that portion of Long Beach Road down on the waterfront and the Cameron Road, I would suggest we need to do something about.
Councillor Yeo, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I do share the councillor's concern with Long Beach Road. Understanding when Councillor Dunn spoke about the people that would use that would be the people from there. Having the connectivity from Ranchers Road through there gives anybody the opportunity to use it. So I guess my question to the task force would be, why would you not close Long Beach Road 34 from Ranchers Road until the population actually starts on Long Beach Road, and that no ATVs be allowed through that, around that big bend where there's nothing. There's just farmer fields there, past the entrance to the subdivision, and prohibit any bikes at all from that stretch of road. Then that would certainly limit Long Beach Road to the people that live there only. It's a question to the task force.
So just for my clarification, what do you say that again, Councillor? Just
from Ranchers Road, in the Ranchers Road area, there's the entrance to, I think it's Southview Estates it's called. And then from that entranceway to Long Beach Road itself at the water, there's really nothing along there. I think there might be one house. And so we could prohibit bikes in that stretch of nothing. And I think that would limit anybody trying to come through and using that as a complete trail. And that would allow only the people in the Long Beach Road area to truly use that to access the trail up to 121 towards Fenelon Falls. So prohibit that little stretch between Ranchers Road and Long Beach Road.
At the waterfront there?
At the waterfront, yeah.
So anybody coming out of Southview Estates could access 34 onto Ranchers Road to access the trail?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. You agree with that, Councillor Elmsley? That would help that concern. Councillor Dunn, do you want to comment?
And that would be a friendly amendment as far as I'm concerned, and my seconder agrees.
Yes? So that would be to close As a friendly amendment, then the section of Long Beach roads east of Ranchers Road down to the waterfront of Long Beach Road? Is that?
There are actually roads, intersections there, kind of, we'd have to get the proper name of them,
Yeah.
but there are a couple of intersections there that would certainly spell it out.
Sarah, does that make sense? Do you have that section of road? Are you clear on what the proposal is for the amendment? Thank you. Any other questions on the route? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I take Councillor Elmsley's comments on 34 to heart as well. So I would ask him, would Country Lane be a better choice? And then would that be a more palatable choice?
Country Lane, if you recall, we've just reduced the speed limit on that road. And it's the one that has the hydro trucks. And it's also going to have an MTO yard up there. So I don't think that would be a really good choice.
Okay, no, I had you here, I just thought I'd ask that question. So I guess there's no other questions I can answer, but I do take Councillor Elm's remark to heart. It's a trial, once again, it's a trial process. We're trying to include people on both sides of Highway 35, and that was the route that we came up with. It's, you know, as I said, it's a task force recommendation. It's not a do or die comment from the task force. So.
Well, I'll just comment. I agree with Councillor Elmsley. I have big concerns about that section of Cameron Road, and you know, I know you're trying to link people east of or west of Highway 35 to the trail, but I guess my question would be why? You've got a whole lot of area west of the trail there that's not being linked anywhere west of Cameron Road. Coming across the road at Cameron, from someone who lives in the area, that intersection in the summertime at Cameron on Highway 35 is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare, and I have very serious safety concerns about people trying to cross there on a weekend. I've sat there trying to go left onto Highway 35 for up to 10 minutes, just waiting for traffic to get by, putting ATV in the mix, and I guess I'm just questioning, as a pilot project, I understand the rationale for Southview Estates, the Ranchers Road. I love the suggestion to cut part of Long Beach off there, and then the other Long Beach is just for people who live in that area. That makes sense to me. You're linking up to the trail. I'm really struggling with Cameron Road and the need to add that, which I think is going to be a huge safety factor when you've got a huge area to the west of there that's not going to be able to access the trail. So I would suggest taking Cameron Road out of there completely, but that would just be my, and going with the rest of it. But that
and as my seconder is agreeable, I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay. Okay, so let's just make sure we've got the motion straight. Ranchers Road from CR 121 to Long Beach Road. Long Beach Road from Highway 35 to City Road 21, except the section between Ranchers Road and the waterfront on Long Beach Road. And we're going to take out the Cameron Road from Highway 35 to City Road 8 out of there completely. Okay? That's your amendment, I think.
Yes, okay, so we're just taking, I thought we were taking the entire Long Beach Road out, but we're just going to take the piece from Ranchers Road to Long Beach Road out. Is that the plan?
Just the piece from Ranchers Road to where it goes down to the waterfront.
Perfect.
And that way they can use Ranchers, and then only the people on Long Beach who live there will be able to access the trail going north.
Absolutely.
And then remove Cameron Road out of it completely, and I think that eliminates a big safety concern on Highway 35.
Okay.
Okay? You're clear on that? Sarah's got it. Seconder, did you want to speak to it? No, you're good. Any further questions on that route? Call the question then. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. Okay, let's go down to the map for the Janetville area. There we go. Go ahead, sir.
And I'm going to turn this one back over to my counselor from that area.
Thank you, and through you. The Janetville area, this particular community and View Lake are huge ATV enthusiasts, and I'm sure Councillor or Deputy Mayor O'Reilly can contest to that, especially in the View Lake area. Again, this was...
Councillor, we're just struggling to hear you a little bit. Sorry. Can you just speak a little closer to the microphone? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
You have such a soft voice. I just want to make sure everybody can hear you.
Soft but powerful, okay? Okay, so like as mentioned, this Janetville and View Lake community are huge ATV enthusiasts. You can see it when you're in the communities. I know that Deputy Mayor O'Reilly can probably contest to that with the View Lake edition. So again, we're going with the straightest route to get to the VRT. We will go through the Janetville, which is the settlement area, to Golf Course Road, up to St. Mary's, and then to the Mount Horeb connection as shown earlier on the Omemee map. Is there any questions?
No. Do you want to propose that route as a motion, and then we'll see if there's a discussion? So Golf Course Road from View Lake to St. Mary's Road, St. Mary's Road from Golf Course Road to Mount Horeb Road, Mount Horeb Road from 100 meters east of Highway 35 to 100 meters west of Highway 7, and Janetville Road from Janetville to Golf Course Road be approved as a pilot project to begin in May of 2022, and that recommendation be forwarded to the next regular council meeting in December. Moved by Councillor Richardson, second. Councillor Yeo, you spoke to it. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Yeo?
No, thank you.
Any questions, comments? Councillor Riley?
Thank you. Just as Councillor Richardson mentioned, that county road is certainly a very busy road too. It's not unlike Mount Horeb and that. So I'm sure I know it's going to be a trial period or whatever, but it's just there's going to be a lot of traffic, and busy traffic has been explained. So
Thank you. Any other questions? Kathleen, I haven't been ignoring you, or Councillor Seymour Fagan. Do you have any comments or questions on that route?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll call the question then. All in favor? And that's passed. Okay, let's go down to the last route we have that's being proposed is in the Bobcaygeon area. No, sorry, we have Bobcaygeon area. Yeah, is that the map we have up? We have two. So let's do the Bobcaygeon area. So that's the top of the map. Go ahead, Councillor Dunn. The top of the map is Bobcaygeon, and the bottom one is the Thunder Bridge Road and Kenry Road linking up the trail in the Lindsay area. So we'll do that one second. So it's just a proposal for the Bobcaygeon route in the top. So if you want to speak to it.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a singular access into Bobcaygeon. Quite frankly, ATVs are using that route. It is they're coming from the four-way intersection into town. Like, it gets them close. What they're doing right now is they're parking their bikes on Main Street or on just off of Main Street, and then they're walking into town to support the businesses. It's the only route in town. Quite frankly, it works. There have been no issues with them doing that, but they're not going to the downtown. But it starts something in Bobcaygeon. It gives us an opportunity to determine whether or not it's a viable alternative. It gets them close to County Road 8 or City Road 8, and it doesn't impact the busy downtown, like on the other side of the canal. It's a trial project, and I would like to hear if Kathleen or Councillor Seymour Fagan has some remarks on it.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, I don't know if everybody can hear me because of course they turned up the music here. So yeah, they are already doing this and they're already parking on Main Street. They're already accessing Front Street. So if we allow them to do this, then they're allowed to do it. They're already going into important and the grocery that have just redone Main Street. It is wide and there is a lot of parking on it right now. My only question is right now we have a detour through there. So with the bridge being out. So I would like to make sure that that detour is not on anymore when we do, if and when. You guys hear me?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, let me turn off my video. Let me turn off my video and then you might be able to hear me better. Okay, so what I said was they're already using this route. They're already coming into town. The city just redid Main Street. It was a big, wide, beautiful street. There is a lot of parking on there. They can access the Inn and Home Hardware and Tim Hortons and Value Mart, all the things that they're already doing. But it's just allowing them to do this at this point. It's just a starting point. It's just a trial period. And I think that that's the best way if we can do that. Can you hear, did that work?
Thank you. So I got to be honest, this is the one route out of all your proposals to me that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Just because they're using it, they're not supposed to use it. So now we're going to let them use it because they're using it anyway is just reverse logic, in my opinion. When we look at these other routes that we're approving here as a pilot project, when the task force was set up, it was to link, road access to link the trail network. And there's a lot of these routes that, they actually make sense. This will allow people to use road access to link the trail. There is no trail in this area of Bobcaygeon. I know you make the argument it can go to Highway 8, which is a road they're allowed to use to link the trail way over by Fenelon or way up by Kinmount. But to access Main Street in Bobcaygeon as part, there's no trail linkage here. There's no road access to link any trail network. As we know, they're not allowed in Peterborough County to access 5 Points. So I'm really struggling with the logic of this route. I think we have one pilot project in the urban area of Lindsay that we're going to try, and it's my belief that before we open up another urban area to ATVs, especially with what I think is the lack of logic for this one, we should see how the Lindsay pilot plays out, what we can learn from that, and then look at Bobcaygeon in the future. So I can't support this route. Councillor Elmsley, you had a comment? Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, except you stole all my thunder because I think you used every argument I was going to use. I can't support this in Bobcaygeon. I supported the other rural routes because of the connectivity to the trail system, but there is no connectivity here to a trail system. And if you look at the other map that was up, you have a little dot of red way off in the corner of the map that doesn't go anywhere, doesn't link anywhere. And for that reason, and hearing from the folks in Bobcaygeon that they seem to be, their numbers, I guess, 66% of them are saying they don't want these on the streets of Bobcaygeon. And I agree with you, the rationale that, well, they're doing it now, so we should allow it. But there's lots of things that people do now that aren't allowed, and we shouldn't allow them to do it either. So I won't be supporting this route in Bobcaygeon. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Just a question, maybe through you to the Councillor Dunn. If this isn't approved, then we had proposed a link south of Bobcaygeon that would perhaps bring bring the route along County Road 24 or Ranch Road.
That's not on the table here today, Ron, just the route,
Okay,
just
well,
this
I'm
route
just trying to
in.
get clarification because they were at one time linked together. And I see that that's been dropped, and I'm just wondering, like, I just want to hear from someone from the task force here why that was dropped, because to me, it's kind of, it is interlinked.
Yeah, we've discussed that. We've discussed other routes in and through Bobcaygeon. The County Road 24 route did not receive support of the local councillor that was on the task force. And she advanced some very good arguments as to why the 24 route, because of the park and so on and so forth. So we decided not to deal with it at this time. Everything is we're going to gather over a 2-year period. We're going to gather so much information about operations of ATVs that the next time the next council has to deal with this issue, there will be accurate information. We've suggested a series of routes in Bobcaygeon to get them up to the trail, and they did have support of the council. But the County Road 24 just didn't have that support, and we respected that. We respected that decision. The other routes that we suggested through Bobcaygeon, we're trying to find a compromise, and we're trying to establish a footprint. And it's always opinions. I believe that City Road 8 is a link. Everything north of City Road 8, and not everything. I know there's restricted roads, but essentially everything north of 8 is permitted, and that would allow ATVers that are operating north of 8 access to Bobcaygeon. I'm not sure about Harvey Township. My understanding is Harvey Township, they can come down, they can't come down the county roads, but they can get into Bobcaygeon at the 4 Points intersection, and that they're coming into Bobcaygeon to shop and enjoy the community. So the final decision was that as a trial project, we could bring them down Main Street. We could park them there. We can let them spread out through the town. Bobcaygeon's a beautiful town, and it's going to help and accept every restaurant on the other side of the river. Because they're more than prepared to walk there, because that's what they're doing. We looked at it as a trial project that deserves support to see if it, and then even the people in Bobcaygeon can say, well, really, that wasn't that bad. And the businesses can say, yeah, based on the study that we've done for 2 years, we can support this going forward, even in a different fashion. So that was the rationale behind not including 24.
Okay, do you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
No, that answers that. That's fine. Thank you.
Do you want to move that route? And we'll have a discussion about that then? Are you going ahead with that?
I'm prepared to move the route.
In the Bobcaygeon area, as a pilot project, Main Street from City Road 36 to Front Street East be approved to be implemented in May of 2022, and that recommendation be forwarded to the next regular council meeting in December. Moved by Councillor Dunn. Councillor Seymour Fagan, do you want to second that? Let me get a seconder, and then you can speak to it. Do you want to second it first? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
Seconded by Councillor Seymour Fagan. Go ahead, you can speak to it. Go ahead.
Okay, so one thing about that route, until the detour is off, I don't want that route approved. So we have to wait until the detour is off. And that's the thing. I've received emails from people from the north, from Kinmount and Burnt River area, that would like to be able to come into the area and support the businesses and be able to head back out. At this point, they can't. Some of them do anyhow, but legally, they're not allowed to do that. So, again, it's a trial period. It's a very, very, very small area. And most of the businesses, actually most of the residents on that area are commercial. Most of the properties on both of those streets. I would say half and half.
Okay, so just for clarification, you've approved this to commence in May of 2022 as a pilot project. But you're also now saying not until the detour comes off.
Yeah, and I said that before, but then my phone cut out. So yeah, I do. I need a friendly on that until the detour comes off, because right now that route is busy.
So you're proposing that this route be approved as a pilot project once the detour route is removed?
Yes.
Councillor Dunn, you move that. He's good with that. You're good with that as a seconder. Any other questions or comments on the Bobcaygeon route? Councillor Yeo, go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I am hedging on this one as well. What kind of, is there any language from Peterborough County, Harvey Township, whatever, on what they allow for ATVs? Because I struggle with the trail connection, because I am the councillor up north, and years ago when we did pass access to the trails, it was basically for people from County Road 8 to go north to hook up with the trails that were there. And to me, this is almost flipping my words around, where we're gonna open up 500 feet of trail in Bobcaygeon, and it's just gonna allow everybody to go the other way. Not that I don't think it's great for, but without some sort of route from the trails up there, it basically, in my mind, could create a free-for-all on all those roads that to this point has not existed. And I just want to, I fought hard to get the bikes up north. It's worked up there. We have some very, very busy roads, just as busy as Mountain Horeb Road up there in County Road 45 and stuff like that, and it has worked. People have been respectful of it. And I just, opening this little piece of Bobcaygeon, I want to be sure that access to the 4 Points Trail in Harvey Township is at least being looked at by them. It's going to be a true trail linkage, and I need some reassurance on what's going on in Peterborough County, if there is any reassurance at all. So can anybody from task force can speak to that?
Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll ask Director Robinson if he's on the line. He might have some input. He is. My understanding is the county roads in Peterborough County are not open to ATV or ORV traffic, but there are some local roads that are. I know they're discussing it, or it's coming up in their master. I think they've referred it to their master trail plan or active transportation plan. But Director, did you hear some of the comments? Can you comment on any of those? Bring any insight?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, through you to the rest of council. Your comments are accurate. Currently, the roads within Harvey and Peterborough County are not open to ORV traffic or ATV traffic. They have referred the entire review to their transportation master plan and are currently working through public consultation to review alternatives for opening roads for ATVs. But at the current time, there is no access from municipal roads through to the 5 Point system.
So Director, the other comment, and it's just for some clarification, north of County Road 8, I know the comment was made before that all roads are open north of County Road 8, and I just want clarification. I don't believe that to be the case, but there is access from County Road 8 in Bobcaygeon where they can use that road through some other roads, I guess, to access the trail to the west or to the north, correct? But not in Peterborough County, in City of Kawartha Lakes?
That is correct. The current bylaw does permit access across 8 and accessing certain locations north of that area within the City of Kawartha Lakes. You are also right that all roads are not open, but there are certain roads that are defined to enable users to connect to linkages north of Road 8.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Yeo? So I think the rationale is for the Bobcaygeon route is that the folks from the north accessing our trail could get off our trail onto some of the local roads north of Highway 8, get down to Highway 8 and access a part of Bobcaygeon if they wanted to. So I think that's the rationale, obviously, the task force has come up with, and whether Peterborough County in the future decides to open up their county roads is their call. I don't think we should be making a decision hoping that they make a certain decision, but I think if we just stick to the rationale that it does allow access into Bobcaygeon for some of our trail users at this point. I would assume that's the rationale that came from the task force, and maybe Councillor Dunn wants to add to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding is the county roads are closed, but the Harvey Township roads are open. That was the last understanding that I had. Harvey Township's open, but not the county roads.
Yeah, but I think you're right, and I've seen the maps. Some of the local roads are open, but you can't access the 5 points just on local roads from Kawartha Lakes. You have to go on the county roads to do that, and at this point, they're not open. So that's, yeah, I know that. I checked the map, actually, so I could verify that. Any other questions on the Bobcaygeon proposal, amended to not till after the detour is lifted, whenever that might be? Councillor Ashmore?
Just a question through you to the director. He mentioned the transportation master plan. I know we've been talking about that for quite a few months and years. So how long would that take to get complete? Where is it right now, and how long would it take to complete, in your opinion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, are you talking about the City of Kawartha Lakes Transportation Master Plan, or the one currently underway in Peterborough County?
No, the one in City Kawartha Lakes.
That transportation master plan is led through the Director of Engineering Corporate Assets, so I'm not sure if Juan is on the line right now, but I don't know the timing for that plan off the top of my head.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I just thought I'd ask.
This linkage of the routes on the county roads is part of the Peterborough County master plan, so we don't obviously have a time frame on them.
Correct.
Juan, do you have an update on when our active, or Director Rojas, when our active transportation plan will be, time frame when that might come forward?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. So there seems to be some confusion. The transportation master plan is in the proposed 2022 capital budget under special projects. The active transportation plan, I believe, was approved last year, and it's under development services portfolio.
And the Trails Master Plan is also being worked on, so just to add more confusion, through Community Services. So they're all being worked on, but really none of them at this point have a bearing on what we're proposing here today. So any further questions on the Bobcaygeon route? Councillor Yeo?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. While they're on the line, do we know how long the detour is going to be in place in Bobcaygeon?
That's probably a better question.
No, that's the federal government, so could be a long time, who knows?
The Trent Severn Bridge being closed, and we don't have a time frame on when that'll be open.
Right, and yeah, I read the correspondence, but okay, I'm struggling with this one. I don't want to, I hate to vote against it, but I'm really struggling with it, and so I'm going to try a motion to defer until we have more information.
Motion to defer the Bobcaygeon route. I need a time frame. To when?
Until we have more information on the detour and the Peterborough Master Plan.
Thank you. Second? Anybody want to second the deferral? Going once. Councillor O'Reilly, you'll second the deferral. Thank you. It's not debatable, so we're just going to vote on it. The motion is to defer the Bobcaygeon route till we have an update on the Peterborough County Transportation Master Plan and an update on when the bridge detour will be coming off. Motion to defer. All in favor? Motion fails. So back to the original motion for the Bobcaygeon route. Is everybody clear on the motion? Did you have a question,
I would
Kat?
like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that deferral is in there until the detour is opened.
It is.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to call the question for Bobcaygeon. All in favor? One. Oh, I need your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4. That motion fails. So we have, I got Kathleen. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, including Kathleen. So that motion fails. So then so there's no route for Bobcaygeon at this point. So let's go to the last one, the Lindsay area. Can you pull that map up? Oh, sorry, yeah, it's there. So the last one is the Thunderbridge Road and Kenry Road, linking up to the trail, and I think this is a pretty straightforward one, but Councillor, I think this is really just people park along these roads to access the trailhead. Allowing them to take their ATVs off their trailer and access the trail seems to make a whole lot of sense to me, so I don't know if there's another rationale you want to put forward, but go ahead.
The only other part of the rationale would be that Kenry Park can now scoot up to, or the Kenry Park residents could now scoot up to the access just up the road. It just opens up that road. And then on the west side of 35, vast majority of the people that live there are farmers. They've got access to that road anyway. It just opens it up, so rather than, it just gives them the opportunity to use the trails, and it's a start.
Okay, so, do you want to move that recommendation then?
Thunderbridge,
Lindsay area, Thunderbridge Road and Kenry Road be initiated as a pilot project to commence in the May of 2022, and that recommendation be forwarded to the next regular council meeting in December. Moved by Councillor Dunn, second. Councillor Ashmore, thank you. Do you want to speak to it, Councillor Ashmore? No. Any questions or comments on that route? Call the question then. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. And that, at this point, sums up our routes. We don't have any memorandums. That was all the recommendations. There was nothing else. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn. Sorry, follow up?
Just a comment, seeing as this will be going to the council meeting in December. The anticipation of the task force, seeing as we're not receiving any further direction from council as far as our proposed routes, our current plan.
Bottom line is it's good news. They just went through, they passed allowing ATVs to go on the roads.
Can you shut that off, please?
In Lindsay.
Thank you.
Sorry, our current plan would be to, at our next meeting, which we hope will be our last meeting, is that we would do some level of study and make recommendations as to the system for monitoring. If in fact council wishes us to do that. Other than that, I guess the next recommendation going before council would be that we have completed our task and that we thank the members of the task force for their diligence and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that needs a motion as far as a recommendation goes, or whether or not we want to have that discussion.
I don't believe so. I think you can bring those recommendations to the council meeting. When we deal with these, we'll just do a couple of follow-up recommendations to, you know, if council wants to adopt some of the parameters of the pilot project, and at that time you can do a follow-up that if council wants to disband the task force, they've completed their duties at that time, then I think that's very appropriate at the December council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, did you have a question before we adjourn?
Yeah, I had a question with respect to the swing bridge in Bobcaygeon. We're assuming that it will be all up and running by April, May of next year. Would it be not appropriate just to get an update from Trent Severn Waterway? I'm sure they could give us an update. We could have it.
Councillor Yeo tried to defer it to get an update. That motion failed, and the motion to approve a route in Bobcaygeon failed. So right now, we'll deal with that when we get an update. When it opens up,
we don't need a council resolution to ask Trent Severn Waterway, do we? Of when this will be completed?
Well, they don't have a time frame when it was going. The last correspondence we got from them was they don't know when the bridge is going to be completed, but we can certainly follow up. There's a lot of interest in when that bridge will be open, so I'm sure we'll follow up, and I'll try to follow up and get an answer for all of council. Okay. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Yeo, seconded by Councillor Elmsley. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you, and we'll see you back here at 1 o'clock for our regular council meeting.